Hey guys, happy Black Friday! So, me and Buster Green here with a quick and frustrated review of the movie 8-Bit Christmas, an HBO Max original Christmas movie. So, this here's a weird movie. It's trying to do that 80s kids nostalgia thing that It and Stranger Things hit the jackpot with. In what I consider a very bold and innovative endeavor, it's a cross between a crappy average Christmas movie and the very surprisingly extinct genre of NES showcase films, consisting of at this point only this movie and the superior movie that's trying to rip off The Wizard. That movie featuring the kid from Boy Meets World and a bunch of runaway kids who go on a cross-country road trip to play every single Nintendo game available in the 1980s with a dramatic and personal goal of playing Super Mario Bros. 3 in a promotional event before anyone else. Now, I was really optimistic to see this movie because the title just jumped out at me as the former producer of the hit YouTube show 8-Bit Philosophy, and because, yeah, NES showcase genre, that's a really difficult movie genre to handle. Like, every goddamn time The Wizard was on basic TV, I was always really excited to sit down and watch it because I played Nintendo, it was cool seeing other kids play Nintendo, and I was actually really excited to see someone else tackle the NES showcase movie genre as a nostalgia movie. But, in a nutshell, this movie really sucks. Okay, so it's about gay old Neil Patrick Harris telling a story to his daughter about how in the 80s, when he was a gay, weird little kid, all he wanted for Christmas was an NES. So he goes through a lot of relatable but exaggerated situations to try and get one. From playing the NES at the house of an evil kid he doesn't actually like, to playing it at the mall where a weird hallucinatory and kind of creepy giant NES says a bunch of weird pedo-y things to him, to dealing with creepy illegal scalpers, crazy bullies, and a bunch of weird angry moms protesting the NES. At one point the kid gets a next to useless light bright instead of an NES, which was also relatable because that did actually happen to me once. But the biggest obstacle in his quest to receive an NES is his white trash asshole 80s dad, who thinks that video games give kids autism or heart attacks or something stupid like that. Alright, that's unfortunately also realistic. When I lived in the 80s, my asshole redneck uncle would always shit-talk me and claim that video games were a Japanese brainwashing conspiracy as their ultimate revenge for losing World War II. So, this movie really falls pretty far behind the mark that The Wizard set, because they fucked this movie up. They cheaped out on it. I think it could have been okay, but they didn't go all the way in on the video game nostalgia, which is a fucking capital crime in a video game nostalgia movie. Like, the biggest flaw of this movie is it's a movie about fucking classic Nintendo games, and yet the fucking idiots, the stupid producers, the stupid director, they did not pay to get the rights for literally any fucking classic Nintendo video games. Since the movie was made by Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to Midway classic games, they just cheaped out and just either used some shitty Midway games that they already own for free, despite the fact that many of those games were obviously not classic Nintendo games. Half of them didn't even make it onto the Nintendo. Like, half of them were just arcade games, and the ones that did get NES ports were usually really bad in comparison to quality. But making matters worse, since they have scenes in the movie trying to explain like how the accessories for the NES worked, like the Power Glove and the NES Zapper, because modern kids don't get that. So since like Midway obviously never made any games for those peripherals, the movie just invents all these shitty looking fake video games, and those fake video games aren't even fucking 8-bit, they're fucking 16-bit, which the NES hardware could never run, and it's fucking like sacrilege to the fucking title of the movie. The Power Glove sequence particularly suffers from this, since it's almost the funniest part of the movie, but there's no Power Glove games. It's just a big joke that the Power Glove actually stuck in real life. Like, the only actual NES game even featured in this movie at all is fucking Rampage, because, you know, Warner Brothers is always pushing Rampage. It's featured in the movie in a stupid meta joke that the NES in the movie is missing Super Mario Bros., the game that literally came with almost every single NES. There was also the scene set in an old video game store, like an old KB Toys or something, with their nostalgic wall of NES games. But again, because they cheaped out on this movie, half the games are fake. The only real one I think I was able to make out was Narc, and they specifically blurred out the boxes in the scene so that a jerk like me couldn't just stare aggressively at them and point out that they're all fake, except Narc. Anyway, since this so-called video game movie falls so dramatically short in the category of actually featuring video games, the majority of the movie is mostly just about this gang of kids trying to scam together enough money to afford a Nintendo. So the movie has a kind of vibe like Ed, Edd and Eddy or the Goonies, and they even scam the Boy Scouts. Anyway, in the end, the main character miraculously scams enough money to buy an NES, but then since he's a dumb kid, he slips on some black ice and his NES ends up getting run over by a bus, and it explodes, which is unrealistic because it wasn't plugged in. So, then the end of the movie, the kid gets a giant fucking treehouse instead of an NES for Christmas. Like, this thing is ludicrous. It has a full electrical setup. I think it's logistically larger than the house I grew up in, and larger than my last 3 New York City apartments. Also, because of cheap movie logic, because they just used the same set, like, with different actors, like, in the past and present, the treehouse looks immaculate 40 years later because, you know, it's the same set. Now, what I consider the most egregious part of the movie is the movie ends with this stupid, like, sappy twist that young Neil never got an NES for Christmas. He got a luxurious giant treehouse from his redneck carpenter video game hating dad. And later he bought a second NES as a teenager. The one the whole movie was actually about, and therefore the whole movie is a giant fucking bait and switch. Also, they delivered this dialogue so fast and off the cuff that I had to rewind the movie 3 times to comprehend where the NES actually came from. Because the actual moral of the film was that his dad later died under mysterious circumstances, and therefore no one will ever build him a gigantic free treehouse ever again, so I guess he's got to take really good care of that treehouse now. But nah, it was some sappy moral about how family is more important than Nintendo, and yeah, sure, I guess that's a movie, although considering how backwards and old-fashioned his redneck dad was, I think he and Neil's relationship probably would have decayed over time. Anyway, this fucking movie, it just felt unfinished. It felt like they had a good script, and it felt like the actors tried, but they fucking half-assed the Nintendo content in a goddamn Nintendo movie. That cheapens the entire experience, even if the acting and the script is good. Like, legitly, the only real Nintendo game in this entire movie is 12 seconds of Rampage on NES, and other than that, they fucking cheaped out on the very fucking focus of the movie. 8-Bit Christmas gets a very angry from me 4 out of 10. Pros, good actors, okay script, features relatable real-world events. Cons, no fucking Nintendo games in a fucking Nintendo movie. The movie just slowly decreases in quality over the course of its runtime, and it features shoehorned in family bullshit ending at the end out of nowhere. It's like the scriptwriter was trying to make something meaningful that would also connect with people, but then the producers and the directors of the film just obviously did not understand video games, not in the 80s, not now, and that makes this whole movie turn into an insincere exploitation piece. It's like the fucking Big Bang Theory. So, you know, it's worse than that because it's all these badly executed and bungled up video game jokes. It's like so fucking baffling to me that you could make a movie where literally the focus is video games and then fucking cheap out and not do any of the video game content. This is like if someone tried to remake Jaws and they had all the same script and all the same actors, but instead of this elaborate, realistic-looking robot shark, they cheaped out and just used some inflatable shark they had laying in their garage. Or like some bad CGI movie sharks. What a fucking rip-off movie. Alright, I'm Ian Buster Green. Please subscribe. I need 280 subscribers to get monetized. I have a subscription to HBO Max so I could watch Godzilla fight King Kong in the comfort of my own home. Please subscribe. Thank you very much. Enjoy Black Friday.